Hello, my name is Megan Barner, and I am a health and wellness coach and physical therapist who works with individuals with POTS and chronic fatigue, helping them rebuild their energy so that they can thrive again in their lives. I'm very passionate about helping this group of individuals as I myself am one of them. I have been navigating POTS and chronic fatigue along with a connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome over the last decade. And I'm happy to say that step by step that you can rebuild your energy and get back to thriving in your life. So the topic for this video is a great one. I get asked quite frequently by clients, how can I sleep better with POTS? Many of us struggle with sleep out there in the general population. I definitely had lots of patients in my past as a physical therapist for about 7 years complained to me about not sleeping well. But a lot of what I'm sharing is going to be applicable to those individuals, but especially applicable to those of us that have POTS or other fatigue-related disorders. One of the first symptoms I had of POTS, when I didn't know I had it for the first 2 or 3 years, was difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep at night. This came along with a high heart rate and some other interesting digestive issues, but I just couldn't fall asleep. Even some of the medications I took, I oddly still stayed awake. All of our journeys are a little different, but the reason I bring it up is that looking back, I can say that what was going on was my autonomic nervous system, or the branch of our nervous system that begins to get wonky when we develop POTS symptoms, was beginning to have some issues. I was staying in a sympathetic fight or flight state. I was constantly kind of alert and aroused, really wired, but felt utterly exhausted all the time, and didn't have the ability to shift off of a go, go, go gas pedal to the other side of the nervous system I like to compare to as our brake, my parasympathetic rest, digest, repair state. By being stuck on this gas pedal and constantly alert, my body didn't really know how to unwind at night, and it was super draining. And I got to the point of total shutdown where I really got stuck in what can actually be considered kind of a more depressed parasympathetic state of extreme illness and had trouble just getting aroused. So all of that said, your autonomic nervous system, it can really be something to target if you're having trouble sleeping with POTS. And the tips that I'm going to share are all things that affect the autonomic nervous system. And a good metric to see if what you're doing is helping is how you're feeling the next morning, how well you're resting, and knowing if you fell asleep better or how many times you woke up. But I love using an objective measurement called heart rate variability. I actually have another video I can tag below this video all about it to help describe it a bit more, but it shows how well that nervous system of yours is shifting into that rest, digest, reparative state overnight when you start implementing these particular changes. So I like to start with the lowest hanging fruit. Oftentimes many people are not aware that their diet or what they eat during the day can drastically impact how well they sleep and drastically impact the state of our nervous system. What we eat affects our blood sugar levels, and if our blood sugar levels are going up and down like a roller coaster all day, that can actually send our autonomic nervous system into more of a stressed fight or flight state. So it's super important to understand how what you're eating and when you're eating, the spacing of your meals impacts what's going on with your blood sugar. Sometimes getting a continuous glucose monitor is helpful. For many, it's really just about dialing down into what their body needs. It's important to get all of those macronutrients, so proteins, healthy fats, and whole food carbohydrates with all of your meals and snacks. And typically eating every couple of hours, and that varies from person to person, so it's important to work with someone individually, whether it be a combination of a health coach and your physician, a dietitian, a nutritionist, to dial down to what can really help you feel your best and keep that blood sugar stable so you can sleep better. It's especially something to note that eating right before you go to bed, even if you're hungry, can actually make you have a poorer night's sleep because your energy is being shifted to try to digest that food and not into repairing your body. So that's the first tip. Second tip, think about your exercise. Exercise can kind of be a difficult thing to figure out for many of us with POTS, as we're told that exercise is possibly going to cure our symptoms or help our symptoms, and it definitely can, but you got to find that sweet spot of exercise. I work with clients on that quite a bit, and I love, so say one of my favorite things with my PT background, but I love to kind of use the analogy of a runner. So if you were going to train for a marathon, you wouldn't suddenly say, well, I'm going to run the entire length of the marathon or half marathon, however many miles, 12 miles you want to do. You would gradually build up. You'd also consider the type of conditioning that you would need to do to be prepared to run that long distance. It wouldn't just be running. You would need to think about some cross training too. So you kind of have to find that sweet spot as an athlete, and we are all, if you think about it, athletes to get through each of our days and how much energy we have. So figuring out where your body is with how much exercise suits your body, the type of exercise that's right for your body, depending upon where you are with your journey. With your condition, oftentimes you gotta start laying down and slowly build up, and how much of exercise you do, and thinking about the timing of it. Something that many people that I talk to don't realize is that exercise can actually shift us into more of a sympathetic state. It's not bad to be in this sympathetic state. It's actually good to have a flexible nervous system where we can go into a sympathetic state when we need to, like when we're exercising. But when you have a condition like POTS, where it's harder to come out of it and shift into that rest reparative state or the parasympathetic side, it's important to not exercise close to bedtime. For some individuals I've worked with, that means exercising before noon. For others, they're able to exercise later in the day, especially if they have trouble regulating their blood sugar. Later in the day, having more food that their body needs for fuel can be helpful. But I have not run into an individual that is able to exercise and go to bed right away. Even if you can quickly fall asleep, it can definitely disrupt your sleep patterns and how well you're able to shift into that parasympathetic state where we should be overnight. And like I mentioned before, HRV is a great way to see what's going on when it comes to the amount of exercise and how it's affecting your sleep and recovery. So my third tip, this is really important for the general population, but I found that those of us with POTS seem to be much more sensitive to matching our circadian rhythm. And a big piece of circadian rhythm is our exposure to daylight. So having some exposure early in the day, general population guidance is within the first 30 minutes to hour of waking, if you can really help set your internal clock, your circadian rhythm, and trying to reduce your light exposure, especially to bright lights and notably blue lights around bedtime, can help quite a bit to set you up to get a better night's sleep. It's also helpful, even if your sleep schedule is all over the place, to try to have a set bedtime and wake up time. And I know this is easier said than done. I struggled with this for years. It is still an area of a little bit of challenge for me, but going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time, even if you're not able to fall asleep right away, can be super helpful to begin to shift your body into a rhythm, to have a more regular sleep cycle and to sleep better. That said, if you're laying there and you can't fall asleep, for some people it's helpful to get up and move around. Others it's helpful to plug in a podcast or something relaxing to at least still being restful. That's what I like to remind myself of when I do have a rough night here and there now, that I still am laying here resting. I'm not up being active. I'm still trying to quiet my nervous system into that recovery mode so that when I wake up, I'm not quite as tired. A huge piece that I want to mention and kind of wrap up with is the importance of understanding how stress, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional, affects us throughout the day, because that can actually affect our sleep. Just like I was referring to HRV with diet and exercise, HRV can be a helpful measure to see how stressed we are and how our nervous system is responding to stress. There are good stressors and bad stressors. for some, getting super excited can actually wear them out and keep them overly stimulated. So learning how to regulate our nervous system and making it more flexible from getting stuck all the time in that fight-flight state or getting stuck in that shutdown state can be super helpful for regulating our stress response. One of my go-to practices that I've talked about quite a bit in my videos is resonance frequency breathing. This is a particular type of breathing that dials into your body's own resonant frequency, kind of like your own radio station, where your body systems are coming into a synchronous state or kind of harmonizing, if you thought about it like a song with all of the musical notes coming in to have this beautiful music. And figuring out your own resonance frequency rate. Most people start around 5 seconds for your inhale and exhale, but it can take a little bit of dialing down, looking at some data using biofeedback to really hit the one that works best and gives you the most benefits. And that is something that I offer all of my clients with my coaching. You're welcome to drop a comment below the video to learn more. And last but not least, I wanted to point out that at least on my own journey, and I've noticed with quite a few clients, to realize that at night when we wind down, as all of us should wind down before night, to signal our nervous system that it's okay to shift and begin to go over into a parasympathetic state and to let go of that constant arousal, we need to give an allotted amount of time. Most of us need at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours to begin to unwind. And during that time, and even going into the overnight, being aware that when you have POTS or another form of chronic illness, with time your nervous system can become a bit more sensitized to things like light, noise, sound, temperature, even textures. So as you prepare your environment to think about how can you reduce the volume of noise, you need earplugs, a sound machine, you need to make sure to shut the door or try to coordinate with the other people that you are living with. Do you need to get some blackout curtains? That's actually an essential for me, or an eye mask or something so that you are not stimulated by light as you're trying to fall asleep. What's the temperature like? Many of us with POTS have difficulty regulating our body temperature. That actually comes with the autonomic nervous system getting a little bit wonky, but figuring out how to cool your body down to something where you're not shivering can actually signal your body to go into sleep, because if we are sleeping too warm, that can actually arouse us and wake us back up. So socks to draw the heat away from the core of your body, considering if possibly you need to reschedule your shower. That was actually a big discovery for me. Showers, yes, they are relaxing, but if you're taking a shower or especially a bath that's warm, you can have quite a bit of pooling of blood. That can increase your heart rate. That can shift you potentially into more of a sympathetic state, and your body can actually stay there overnight. So it's not shifting into that parasympathetic rest, digest, repair state. So you can either shift the time of day that you do your shower, try to cool down quite a bit and lower your heart rate after your shower, or I'm still working on it, but try cold showers. But that is a process and a discussion in and of itself. And then it's also important to consider how sensitive you are to sensations. If you are sleeping under covers that are scratchy, too heavy, too light, if you like more pressure, like with a weighted blanket to help ground your nervous system, you got to figure out what works for you. So don't give up when it comes to figuring out how to sleep better. Try to tackle one particular thing at a time, and definitely reach out to those on your care team for feedback and for further testing if you feel like there's something else going on. And if you're interested, you can pair up with someone like me as a health coach to give you guidance and further tips so that you can begin to sleep better and feel more rested. And as I mentioned, improve that HRV. I'll link the video below. I offer a free consultation for all interested potential clients. You're welcome to reach out to me by email at megan.varner@guidetoresilience.com or drop a comment below the video and I'll reach out to you.